Good afternoon. Hello, everyone. I'm Blake Thomas. I'm Salt Lake City's Director of Community and Neighborhoods. Want to give a shout out to the VA for hosting and for all that they do. April is Fair Housing Month, and it's a chance for our department and the city as a whole to take stock of our city's efforts to further the Fair Housing Act and the protections therein, and to make Salt Lake City an even more inviting and equitable city for all. The Fair Housing Act was passed by Congress 3 days after the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., and we remember his legacy and the many others who made the Civil Rights Act of 1968, which includes the Fair Housing Act, possible. Before I introduce the mayor, I want to extend my appreciation to Salt Lake City's housing team, who organized this event and other activities this week related to fair housing, and the work that they do in the community day after day to directly further fair housing in our great city. Now I'll invite up to the microphone Mayor Erin Mendenhall. Afterwards, we'll hear from Andrew Riegel with the Disability Law Center, Sean McMillan with First Step House, and veteran David Ware. After our remarks, the speakers will be available to speak with the press, and Andrew will also be offering a tour of a unit here to see the ADA design and accommodations. Mayor Mendenhall.
Thanks, Blake.
Hi, guys.
Hello there.
Thanks, everyone, for being here today. I want to thank our hosts, the VA, of course, the Housing Authority of Salt Lake City, and First Step House. We're so glad to keep working with you. I'm honored as the mayor to declare April our Fair Housing Month yet again. And in Salt Lake City, we're going to continue this important work every single day, every month of the year. And we are dedicated, really, that's what drives us, is this dedication to creating inclusive housing. Not just housing that's accessible, but housing that's welcoming, that feels like home, and that meets the needs of individuals as they are. We're dedicated to this in housing, but also in business and in entertainment and recreation and all of the amenities that the city's engaged in. And I really value the opportunity that our housing team has created in this event, but we do it throughout the year, but to recommit ourselves to that work in all of those endeavors. Fair housing, it isn't just the law, it's the way that as a community we can say to those of us who want to call Salt Lake City home that no matter who you are, there's a place for you here, and we are dedicated to making sure of it. This year we're putting a particular emphasis on fair housing for those with disabilities and also the protections therein. So we still obviously uphold the Americans with Disabilities Act of 1990, and that's an act that shed light on America's failure at the time to accommodate those with disabilities, effectively shutting people out from their own communities. When I served on the city council, one of our most engaged constituents was a man named Douglas, and he attended our meetings very often. He was a frequent rider of public transportation. He was a downtown resident, and he was a vocal advocate for the disability community. His apartment building not far from City Hall had an elevator that was too frequently out of order, and he always let us know about it, which we were grateful for. For him and for his neighbors, the elevator wasn't a luxury. It was really a necessity in order to live a full life, and it was their right to have that. I'm proud of the work that we do in our city day in and day out to make sure that our constituents don't have to deal with those barriers. Accessibility isn't just the responsibility of our housing stability team. It's part of every department and all of the engagement that we do as a city, from our building permitting folks to code enforcement to our web design to events that we host, the parks that we serve. Accessibility is a consideration in every piece of it. Our Housing Stability Division improved the homes of 76 low-income households with disabilities to make their spaces more livable and more accessible and enjoyable. In February of this year, the City Council approved my request for an elevation of our Accessibility Advisory Committee from a committee to a commission level. This change elevates the work that those members are already doing. It makes it more accessible to our public, and it puts a greater priority, frankly, on the recommendations that come out of it and ultimately the policy and funding decisions that come from that. My office also has a team of professionals who are focused entirely on equity and inclusion. Coletta Lynch is our Chief Equity Officer, and she leads a team of many individuals. It's actually even a growing team of individuals who include our ADA coordinator, Ashley Leidy. If you don't know her, she's amazing, and please get to know her. She works specifically on ADA issues for the city. I want to recognize our community partners, also longtime partners with Assist Utah, with the Community Development Corporation of Utah, and with NeighborWorks, all of whom receive city grant funds to do even more housing rehabilitation and access work with our residents, those modification improvements, etc., for our low-income homeowners in Salt Lake City. The need that we have to uphold the ADA accommodations isn't limited to housing, of course, and we're really proud to help facilitate and encourage the compliance with our business community. Such was the case with Roja, a local brewery. Anybody from Roja here today? Cheers.
Thank you.
Yeah. Chink, we'll do that later, okay? If you haven't been to Roja, they're one of the best beers in the West, so check them out. But they came to Salt Lake City through our CDBG Community Development Block Grant process and accessed some of our facade program improvement. The technical name is Neighborhood Business Improvement Program Grant, but it's known affectionately as the facade improvement. And they did that so that they could install a wheelchair accessible ramp to their business. This is the kind of public-private partnership that we are passionate about, and there's money on the table for it. And actually the amount of that money is about to go up. So if you're a small business and you want to be able to make accommodations that make your business more accessible, if you're in Salt Lake City, call us up. Overall, my administration is committed to improving access in housing, in our city administration, in our buildings, in our amenities, in transportation, in commercial spaces. And that's why we're so happy to declare April Fair Housing Month. And I'm sorry, but I have a proclamation to read to you, because that I kind of spoke for a moment. Can I do that right now, Blake? Or do you want me to wait? Okay. Do you mind, Andrew? Okay. Whereas April marks the 54th anniversary of the passage of the Title VIII of the Civil Rights Act of 1968, as amended, commonly known as the Federal Fair Housing Act, which seeks to eliminate discrimination in housing opportunities and to affirmatively further housing choices for all Americans. Whereas the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development, HUD, has declared April to be Fair Housing Month, and whereas Salt Lake City welcomes the opportunity to join the federal government and the state and local jurisdictions across America in this celebration of the rich diversity of our people and the right of all individuals and all households to live where they choose without fear of discrimination, regardless of race, color, religion, sex, disability, familial status, or national origin. Whereas Salt Lake City affirms the Federal Americans with Disabilities Act, or ADA, of 1990, which significantly expanded accessibility in housing, transportation, access to public buildings and accommodations. And whereas Salt Lake City implemented the growing SLC plan, a 5-year housing plan from 2018 to 2022, with the guiding principles to create an equitable city by ensuring access to all city amenities for all citizens, while treating everyone equitably with fairness, justice, and respect. And whereas Salt Lake City remains committed to improving accessibility for all in our community, in housing and our neighborhoods, including utilizing the city's HUD Community Development Block grants and home investment partnership programs to facilitate enhanced accessibility throughout the city, ADA-friendly public transit options, and housing modifications, and in partnership with community organizations, we fund affordable housing options where accessibility needs of residents are prioritized. Now, therefore, I, Erin Mendenhall, Mayor of Salt Lake City, in my commitment to geographic equity, inclusion, and belonging, and righting unjust and unfair housing policies and practices, do hereby proclaim April of 2022 as Fair Housing Month in Salt Lake City.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Andrew Riegel, and I'm the Public Policy Advocate for the Disability Law Center. First of all, thank you, Mayor Mendenhall, for elevating the voices of city residents with a lived experience of disability across the lifespan and recognizing the value of their contributions to our communities. The Disability Law Center is a nonprofit organization designated by the Governor of Utah as Utah's protection and advocacy agency. The DLC believes in a society where abilities, rather than disabilities, are recognized. All people have an equal opportunity to participate, and where all our people are treated with equity, dignity, and respect. We work toward this vision by enforcing and strengthening the laws protecting the opportunities, choices, and legal rights of Utahns with disabilities. The DLC receives about 4,000 calls a year from individuals looking for the information or help they need to advocate for their rights or access the programs and services they need to live as independently and productively as possible. While our work includes everything from special education to employment to healthcare to voting to nursing homes to jail and more, much of it focuses on enforcing the non-discrimination provisions of the Americans with Disabilities Act and the Fair Housing Act. Unfortunately, the ADA and FHA have loopholes. The ADA only requires businesses opened after 1991 or having undergone a significant renovation since to be accessible. Likewise, the FHA only requires apartments to be accessible if constructed after 1990. Additionally, the standards do not apply to single-family homes, townhomes, condos, or buildings with fewer than 4 units. This limits the supply of accessible housing. More than 30 years after the passage of both of these laws, a business may be able to remain inaccessible because an owner says it is too expensive to comply. Likewise, public transportation is often still the only option for non-drivers because rideshare companies argue they are technology, not transportation providers. From personal experience, even though finding a roll-in shower is like finding a needle in a haystack, apartment leasing agents are allowed to rent an accessible unit to the first person through the door, whether or not the prospective tenant needs the specific features. Additionally, on top of $1,200 for a one-bedroom or $1,800 for a two-bedroom, property managers of many market rate buildings are insisting on income 2 to 3 times the monthly rent just to get in the door. While the ADA and FHA look and sound good on paper, their words are meaningless unless turned into action. To do so takes individuals telling their stories, advocates helping them share their experiences with policymakers, and policymakers working with business owners and builders to realize their vision of an affordable, physically accessible, and inclusive community. It is the success and promise of these partnerships that we celebrate today.
Hello, everyone. I'm Sean McMillan. I'm the Executive Director of First Step House. And I want to thank Mayor Mendenhall and her team for honoring us with the opportunity to host this here at Valor House. Valor House is a partnership between the Housing Authority of Salt Lake City, the Salt Lake VA Medical Center, and First Step House. First Step House serves as the service provider at this location. This is transitional housing. It is housing that is a bridge to permanent housing for any veteran who meets qualifications for a disability, who lives in the catchment, in the Salt Lake VA Medical Center catchment. Who we're primarily serving are those individuals with a mental health disability, but it is also very common for a physical disability to be present as well. Some of those disabilities are visible and some are not. And what we're working on here is to help an individual to become maximally self-sufficient and independent so they can transition to the community and live fully independent lives. But a reality is, in this very tight rental market, even veterans, a group that we can all agree should never be homeless, struggle to find housing in our community. I believe that that's something we all agree on, that no veteran should ever be homeless. And further aggravate that, because of poverty, because of disability, because of the presence of some substance use disorder in some instances, individuals with disability have criminal history, which serves as a further obstacle to finding stable housing in the community. All of the issues that just compound to create just an incredibly difficult environment for veterans to find housing. We need to make sure that that is addressed. First Step House is also a housing developer. We have developed deeply affordable housing here in Salt Lake City with the assistance of Mayor Mendenhall and others. And what we have found is that the demand for this type of housing, this deeply affordable housing that is service rich, that addresses the needs of disabled individuals to remain stable in the community, we don't have enough. We don't have enough. And what this all means is that we need landlords elsewhere in the community to open their doors, to open their minds to individuals that have struggled at one point in their life or present or struggle right now. You know, and what we would want you to know is that many of these individuals who struggle with disability have services that are attached to them. They follow the individual. And we can work with you to help individuals who may struggle, who are in one of your units, and we can help them stay stable in your unit and be a good tenant. So please talk to us. Please reach out. We have Dr. Angela Williams, who is the new director of the Salt Lake VA Medical Center, with us today. That's how important that is. Josh Watkins leading the VA Medical Center homeless team, and Jill Atwood, the communications director. That's how important all of this is to all of us, so that we can address housing needs for individuals in our community, especially those with disability. Thank you.
Well, hi folks, and I'm glad you're all here today. It's a special privilege for me to be here today also. My name is David Ware, and I'm kind of talking, I guess, from the perspective and sharing from the perspective as one of these people that came through the program, from the ground level right through it here, to be here today with you. If I may, I just really want to thank Tony and Andrew for my coming here. I always looked for an opportunity to say thanks on a grander scale than just one-on-one. And I feel like a kid today. I'm amazed. I am so unaware and only hopeful. I couldn't put names on the feelings, but now I'm aware. This is amazing, the programs that are in place. And I'm feeling and hoping that it's only the beginning. I'm really excited. I'm glad you're on board with this. This is great. So Mayor and all these other folks, thank you so much. If I just may start, though, mayors and bosses, they always hear when things go wrong. They're the first one to get it when the train jumps the track. But it's so good when these same people hear about when things go right. We don't always hear and have time to make that right. So that's what I'm here for, just to tell you about one or two things that went right. Okay? So I just wanted to I remember once hearing that, and I'll keep this short because I know we're all standing, okay? But I remember hearing back that where there is no vision, the people perish. And you know, I don't know what the vision was in 2014. I'm not even sure what the vision is in 2022 here. But I can tell you that whoever, well, it goes back just for a second there. In the winter of 2014, I was prepared. I came here from another state, Florida. I'm a southern boy and an old Florida redneck. And that's a privilege of saying that. But you know, I came here and was fully prepared. Well, in a very short, just matter of weeks, I found myself homeless. I had a lease on an apartment there on Redwood Road in 90th South, Willow Cove, really nice little place. And just a matter of almost 2 months later, I found myself there as a resident of the road home. I was in shock, cultural shock to say the least. You know, it's kind of funny when you've got everything you've got owned in a bag. Where do you start at? You've got to walk for blocks or miles to find a restroom. That's where I was at. So anyway, so there being at the road home very quickly there, you know, you can give a person a burger. I've come out of my pocket with a little bit of cash for somebody and hoping that, well, I'd like to do just more than my part. My part is to give and not ask why, okay? What they do with it, that's okay. But you know, I always wish I could do more. And then, I kind of lost my train of thought there really quickly, but there I am here in the valley, and there at the road home, and you can feed somebody a meal. You can buy them a lunch, perhaps. You might even give them a sleeping bag, and some of these groups that come in and whatnot, just to make their way, even on a daily venture, a little easier. But let me tell you from experience that if you can give somebody a place to stay, and not just dump them someplace, but you can actually give them a place to stay and have some venue where he can turn or she can turn, okay? You've laid the foundation for success. You've laid the foundation now, okay, for a success story all the way around. So I found a veteran. His name was Tim Foley. I wish Tim was here with us today. Just some people nods, okay. He's an incredible individual. And he said, David, give me your information. And I said, no, you don't understand. People smarter than you have tried. Somehow my military situation's under file or sealed or something. He goes, just try me. Just go ahead and give it to me. I've had city councilmen and whatnot do the same favor for me and said, gee, we don't have any record of you being in the military. So I've got photo albums of hot dogging on a parachute jump. Come on, I know I've been in. Well, anyway, make a long story short, I was given this. This man took me and brought me, on a Friday. It was his Friday. He was off the weekend and said, David, you meet me at 11 o'clock tomorrow morning. I have a white Toyota in the parking lot, and we'll go in and we'll find you a place to stay. I said, oh, Tim, don't mess with me. Come on, don't play with me like that. But he told me, yes, David, you've been approved for everything. So I just couldn't believe it. And by 3 o'clock that late afternoon the next day, I was living. I had an apartment. I couldn't sleep for 2 weeks because I figured everybody that walked by was going to knock on my door saying, oh, your voucher's been canceled or your lease wasn't approved. And that's why you live like that. I've never been in this situation before. Never. So it was really kind of new to me there. And just I wanted to say, though, that there I was, 2 months into the 14 of a winter, 3 inches of snow on me, sleeping on a park bench there at the Gateway Mall. When this big I call them my poly people, but this big Polynesian fella came over and picked me off the bench, carried me for a block and a half across the street to the rescue mission, and says, hey, does somebody know this fella? Well, the next day I was with at the 4th Street Clinic. I'm not sure if you all know the 4th Street Clinic, the free clinic. Well, I was there, and no bars hold. I was greeted in there, and the fellow that saw me, he's with us here today. I don't want to leave any names out, so I'll just, but this person fixed me right up. And I couldn't believe it. I even asked him about that. Former combat medic in the Army. I said, well, gee, this has got to be expensive, isn't it? He goes, Dave, yeah, this is right at the top of the budget, but don't worry about it. He goes, we'll do this. We got this. We'll make a long story short there. Let me just go ahead and finish here. But I wouldn't be alive today. I was there with 103-degree temperature. I had pneumonia. I was bronchitis. I was in bad shape. And if this person hadn't carried me the block and a half, if I wasn't received so well there with the provisions and the programs that the road home offered, I wouldn't be here talking to you. And folks, it didn't stop there. Just a few years later, it happens. I had a heart attack, and here I am. I had my surgery through the military program, my benefits. It was 30-something years. I didn't even know I had the benefits. Didn't know who to turn to, who to ask. So I just can't thank you enough. I'm a product of the HUD-VASH program. I've been there not only for a couple of weeks, a couple of months. I've been years on it. I am not on it now. I'm a homeowner. I'm married. This is my lovely wife, Soji, in front of us here, the little shutterbug. I'm gainfully employed. I maintain and enforce the COVID protocol for the Broadcom Executive Center at the point of the mountain. So I've been blessed, and I'm telling you folks, I couldn't be and wouldn't be if it wasn't for my I call him my caseworker, but I guess he's got that formal title. I'm sure you're all familiar with it, the LCSW. Okay, he's one of a kind, uniquely qualified to do what he does, and he brings more than just his qualifications. He brings a passion, and my champion that'll always be Sam Vincent, that makes it possible every day that I stay between the lines, that I'm productive, hopeful, and that my dreams are, I've got a chance at them. I'm 63 years old, and I'm just really grateful. So thanks, fellas, and thank you so much.